And go over Claude Design 101. This session is meant to show how to set up a design system, capture your website, and then ship assets on brand. So we will hit the agenda. What we're going to cover is the intro to the AI series, which Aaron will introduce us to. Then we're going to cover why Claude Design, how to set up the system, how to generate on-brand deliverables, some best practices and tips, and then QA and next steps for joining us for the rest of our series. So Aaron, do you want to first go over a quick intro to the series?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm Aaron Wyckoff. I'm a cyber risk advisor here at Vega Next. We're an AI-first managed IT and cybersecurity provider right here in Los Angeles, California. But our team is international, and we help organizations large and small with development projects, with wrapping security and compliance around the things that they do, including AI. And then we run these webinar lunch and learns twice a month. So if you join and sign up for the series on Eventbrite, it's under the name SoCal Tech Vision. You'll get access to the entire series, including updates. So we'll share a QR code at the end. And then I'll introduce Lisa, who's our AI trainer here at Vega Next. She works with organizations large and small on AI strategy. And she brings expertise not just for Claude and Claude Design, which she's here to present on today, but also frontier large language models. We were just talking about access and permissions and sandboxing, which is the ability to wrap controls and notifications monitoring around your LLMs. So we have a data center here in Pasadena. We can spin up virtual machines that keep your large language models contained. We can give you access to private LLMs as well. So that can greatly reduce cost, but also increase security because we can air gap them so they don't touch the public internet. We really want to work with you end to end on strategy. Lisa runs Reimagine, which helps organizations build their brands through creative storytelling, video creation using AI tools, and she is uniquely qualified to deliver this presentation today for that reason. So Lisa, I'll hand it over to you.
Cool. Okay, great. So I will keep this fairly short. We have a deck which we'll walk through and go over the basics of Claude Design. Then we're going to go into Claude Design itself and walk through the different modules, the different setup methods, and then we'll come back for some best practices and Q&A. So the first important thing about Claude Design is figuring out why you need it. There are some key reasons why. If you are used to using different AI tools, you will notice that if you're, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, oftentimes you have to re-explain yourself every time you need to make something for your brand. And the reason why you would use Claude Design is to set up a system so that you have all of the different elements that make your brand what it is. So this is everything from colors, font, tone, writing, voice, and you put it into a reusable system. So this means that instead of each chat having to start from scratch, you have a system that the agent can point at and it can generate things on brand for you. So the important thing is what you need to prepare. There are a few items. One is to access Claude Design, you do need to have a paid account. So this is at minimum the $20 a month version. Two is you should have a good brand source. So either your website is already published and you can use its URL, if your team has the GitHub repository, so the code behind it, or if you, at very minimum, if you're launching a brand, you have a PDF deck of brand guidelines. Any of them will work. The best option is a GitHub repo because that has all the code in it, but any of the three. And then logos and key images as well. Those are useful to give Claude some guidance. So the way we would do this, and I'll show this in the system shortly, is to actually go into Claude Design, and hopefully you can see my mouse hovering. You would say attach folder, attach file, point it to a GitHub repository, or link local code, and this would be the basis to start. So your best option is that GitHub repo, but option A and option C work as well. So what you get out of this is a complete organization of the different elements that comprise your brand. So this includes color palette, typography, spacing, layout, radius, shadow, motion. So this is component design, brand voice and tone, which is really important when writing anything copy related, casing and copy rules, so formatting, components, and then iconography and imagery. So all of these different elements will be pre-organized for you so that when you come back and you ask for different assets, the agent already knows where to look and what rules exist. So once Claude does all of this for you, it takes about 5-10 minutes for it to parse everything and organize everything into its own files. So you will see your design system in the example that we'll show. We lifted Mattel's, so it's a little bit easier for everybody to reference since it's a pretty well-known brand. And you'll see the design system, source, summary, an index down the left of the different components. So for example, brand, colors, type, spacing, and your job is to check what Claude returned, edit anything, and then once you're comfortable with your system, you start generating assets. So with working with Claude Design, it's actually really simple. We'll also show the chat bar in a little bit, but instead of your traditional approach of going into Google Slides or PowerPoint, dragging and dropping things around, copy pasting, editing directly, you work directly in chat. And then you can also edit directly on the page. So this includes annotating on the page, sending screenshots through to the agent, and then having it do tweaks for you. So much simpler than spending your time dragging, dropping, clicking around, and adminning a set of slides. There will also be 3 different modules, and I'll show you what the differences are. There are projects, design systems, and templates, and they're all for different things. The way that we like to think about it is actually, let's think right to left. So you want to think of templates being a reusable starting point. So think ahead of what you typically need to build, right? Is this Instagram carousels? Is this LinkedIn posts? Is this programmatic ads for Facebook and other sources? Then your design system, which is specifically your brand rulebook. So this is what you lift from your GitHub repo, your existing website, or a brand guidelines deck. And then a project. So this is, per basis. Maybe this is a report that you need to make for a client. Maybe this is a campaign or a product launch that you need to support. So think about this as more of a per project, design system as per company, per brand, and then templates as things that you plan on using all the time. So we'll show where each of these live once we go into the actual tool itself. And then for generating deliverables, you can ask for just about anything under the sun. For beginners, it's really nice to start with basic things that you need. So social assets, presentations, pitch decks, one-pagers, flyers, posters, reports, PDFs. And then for, let's call it 101 would be the top row. Let's call it 201 would be the second row. So this is where you can start asking Claude to help make you landing pages, help you draft out your newsletters. And then also, once you get a little bit more locked into it, different prototypes for your digital assets across your web page, let's say you have an app, and then also infographics and mockups. So this is where you can start to really tap into the power of Claude Design. So we'll also show this. You are able to, if you have sub-brands, have different variants. So this means that, for example, we'll show what it looks like with Mattel. They have Barbie, they have Hot Wheels, they have different color schemes. Claude makes this very simple to hop around through the different ones. And I'll show you what that looks like. And what that means is when you have, this will look a little bit different because Claude updated their UI, but it's the same idea. All you have to do is manage or set up your different variants, so your sub brands, and then flip between the variants. So for example, when I'm talking and showing you guys about templates, all you would have to do is flip the brand and it'll take the color scheme per brand. So really exciting. Okay, we'll come back to the best practices checklist, but the next portion of this is to show you Claude Design itself. The fun part about this presentation is that this was actually made in Claude Design. So I'm going to work a little bit backwards and show the relevant parts piece by piece. So when I'm speaking about chatting with Claude Design to do your work, it's truly what we did here. So the chat bar is on the left. You access it through this little sidebar, and all you do is chat, put in your request, say, you know, I need another slide deck or another slide at the end to add a thank you wrap slide. I need to add QR codes, and the agent will do this with you. So very quite simple to interact with the agent. So what does this look like at the very beginning? So to access Claude Design, you go into your homepage, and then on the bottom left, you will see Design. So you'll click into Design. And for the purposes of this presentation, you can have multiple design systems. We made this one with Mattel because it's quite simple and everybody recognizes it. So you could go as simple as saying, I need a carousel post for an upcoming toy car launch. And then Claude will get going for you. So the first thing I want to walk through, though, is the bottom section where we have projects, design systems, and templates. So the best way to think about this is you always start with your design system. When you come into Claude Design for the first time, you will not have anything specific like Mattel design system, or in our case, another client's design system. But you will see these pre-canned versions of modernist, classical, nocturne, organic, broadsheet industry. You don't have to use them. This is where I would encourage adding your brand guidelines if you only have it as a PDF. So attach the file or connect to your GitHub if you have the website's code. And then another option is if you only have your website to save online, you could open up. So for example, this is the Mattel page. You would open it up, press save page as, give it a second. And then what you would want to do is make sure you're saving it as web page complete. And then once that's saved, you would attach that file here. And then all you would have to say is, begin making design system, let it go. Claude will take about 5 to 10 minutes to set it all up. It may have you answer a few questions about your preferences. And then what you will see is the summary of the design system. You'll set, if you're ready to publish it, a long list of all the different components of your brand, which is brand at a glance, content fundamentals, visual foundations. The faster way to jump to different things is using this left side navigation bar. So the different components, the core styling, and you can review the entire set of parsed data to make sure that you're happy, that you agree with the visual foundations, the iconography, the components. You can have it actually make different templates for your website. If you're curious what it looks like, it will auto parse things like logo, brand portfolio, if you give it that, different sub-brand accents, what your visual hierarchy should look like, what your navigation looks like, and then other different rules across iconography, typography, and component styling. So the cool part about this is I actually did ask Claude to create a corporate homepage, which I do want to show, and we can, compare and contrast the two. So this is Mattel's actual about page, homepage. It has a hero section with featured products, their different brands, carousels showing current initiatives, and then more of kind of like a corporate about page, recent news from the feed, things like that. Claude's version was a little bit more interesting. It seems a little bit more conversion related than brand related. So for example, you see more of a hero section with a CTA, shop, a quick about, and then portfolio, newsroom, footer. So it is interesting to see the different interpretations that Claude comes up with. So it's a really nice way, whether you already have a website, whether you're considering doing any sort of upgrades to it, to just have Claude give you some options. So very low lift way to do it. You'll see, for example, items that are made in your design system home area on your homepage, and you're able to, quickly use templates as well. So for example, like I said, you could do slides, documents, a little bit more advanced users can do animations and UI mockups, but it's pretty simple to select a template, have Claude make that for you, and then really have a few options to go into a brainstorming meeting with. So that was templates and design systems. Now we're going to look at projects. So projects are considered items that you would have a one-off for. So is this a best practice, or is this a campaign launch, or is this a product launch? All of these things can be done in your projects. So this is where I actually created the Claude Design presentation. We're going to click into it because there are a couple of other items that are nested in here. So when I was speaking about the sub-brand capability and what you can have Claude do, this is a example of having Claude create social media posts for you. So if the text is a little bit small, let me zoom in here. But what I had Claude do was create carousels across 4 different social media channels. So we have LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And what Claude did was 2 things. One is I asked for specs across all the different platforms, which means, it already knows what sizes each platform accepts. So you can see LinkedIn has the square size, Instagram is a little bit longer, Facebook is also square, and then TikTok, being full screen, has that particular set of specs as well. The nice thing too is when you hand this over to Claude, it will also adjust by voice. So LinkedIn is a little bit more professional, introducing mega rovers. Instagram, a little bit more casual, meet mega rovers. Facebook, a little bit more in between, and then TikTok, quite Gen Z oriented. So that's a really great part about utilizing Claude and using agents to your advantage, where it can help you pre-write based on the audience, based on the channel, and based on your brand's voice, and then create different iterations based on the distribution channel. So all you would have to do, for example, for the product photo is add the file into chat, and then the agent will drop it in there for you. But this is a really great way to reduce the amount of time you're spending on adjusting for different specs and really thinking about what needs to make it into the messaging. And it's really nice because all you have to do is come in here and say, not loving TikTok, make it more polished, and it will go ahead and do that for you. So the other thing that I did want to show was variants. So during the presentation, when I said you could use sub-brands, if you can see up at the top where it says toy carousel, I have franchise up here. So the first one by default is this Mattel red, but let's say we want to do Hot Wheels blue. It will change all the variants to show that different coloring for me. And then I believe sunshine is yellow. So you can easily have Claude help you create assets that work across your different sub-brands by simply flipping a selection on which sub-brand you're targeting. And then let's say, you wanted a specific thing changed on one slide. You could do a couple things. You can comment on the deck itself so that your teammates can review it later. Or if you need Claude to edit something for you, there are 2 ways to do this. So comment was over here on the top. Edit is also over here on the top. So when I hit edit, let's say I wanted to edit the title. So I have introducing Mega Rovers. I can either click in, and then on the left side, you can see that now the model has pulled up the different components to show what you can easily adjust on your own. So you can either adjust these things manually if you like, or you can press discard, go back into chat, and then say specifically, I want to, change the title from introducing Mega Rovers to Mega Rovers dropping soon. So a lot of different ways to utilize Claude to your advantage. And the goal really is to give your team more time to think about messaging, think about strategy, and then hand off the execution of things like specs, iterations, and different voice by channel to the agent, which is what it's very good at. So let's go back to the deck. And then I'll go back into present mode. This brings us to best practices. To get the most out of Claude Design, it's really important to give it good inputs. So for example, giving it one authoritative source. If you have a GitHub repo, that's the best, but if you have a web page or if you have a brand guidelines deck, that's also a good place to start. You can always continue to add and layer on as you go. The second one is to really keep the palette tight. Otherwise, it's a little bit hard for Claude to understand the hierarchy. And, even if you have a wider color palette, you can always direct it in chat and say, hey, let's focus on this smaller subset, and then you can define that hierarchy later. Tip number 3 is request deliverables by platform and format. So that's where we just showed the different swim lanes. So instead of saying, I need social media assets, specify I would like social media assets for LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and write them out based on the demographic per channel so that the voice matches the audience. And then best practice number 4 is pick a source that has real components, copy, and imagery. I can show you a short list of the websites that I like to use for inspiration in a little bit, but it's most important to give Claude good examples. So anytime you are, looking at someone else's website, you really like something, take a screenshot of it, throw it into a Claude design chat and say, hey, I really like this. Can you extract the different visual elements of this? And we can apply this to my website, and it will gladly do that for you. And then best practice number 5 is iterate. It's going to take a few rounds in order to get your design system perfect. It will not, in the first 5-10 minutes of parsing, get everything done in one shot. The beauty of the design system is you build over time, you figure out what works for you, and then because you are working with Claude and it has that context, it knows what to do. So I'll show you a couple more things. One is the different design tools. So Erin can share this afterwards, but I have a short list of about 20 different sources that you can go to give Claude ideas for component design. So this is everything from Awards is a really great website that truly is a collection of award-winning websites. And examples include, other ones that are really nice are Dribbble has always had some really great design inspiration. Mobbin is newer, but this whole set will allow you to look around, see what you like for inspiration, and then copy paste into Claude Design so it can replicate based on your brand guidelines and colors. The second one is, let's look quickly at the design system again. What I do want to emphasize is that this will take you a few times. And then if you don't have everything, all you have to do is say in chat, Claude, or what am I missing from this design system? And Claude will gladly tell you, you could do with some more component hierarchy. You could do with some more, you could do with some specific brand voice guidelines, and you can work on creating that with Claude. The last important thing to talk about is managing your context. So for example, you can see in this chat that it's notifying me that I've been chatting for a while and that if I wanted to create a new chat, I can save context. You will notice that Claude Design eats up a lot of usage if you let it get out of control. So not a big deal. You just start a new chat after you've been working for a while, and then you're able to access your older chats as well. So I recommend doing different chats for your design setup, different projects, different templates that you need, because that will allow you to keep the conversations clean and then also focused on what the agent needs to do. So it's very similar to using regular Claude chat, where when you have its own dedicated thread, it's a little bit better with how your usage will come in, and then gives Claude more focus on the task at hand. So based on that, let's go back to full screen. The next steps are to try this with your brand. And what we'll do is Erin will send out a recap with the slide deck plus the upcoming series, as well as I'll hand him the screenshot necessary to get the URLs distributed for those design sources of inspiration.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll hand it back. Yeah.
Do we have any questions? No? Well, I'll recap with a thank you to Lisa for presenting. If you need help with creative, with web development, with sandboxing these AI environments, with AI acceptable use policy, which is typically how we enforce everything else, right? From detection of shadow AI to helping you recover should you get a prompt injection through backup and recovery techniques, to the virtual and physical infrastructure that runs these AI environments. Feel free to reach out. My email is awykoff, AWYKOFF, @veganext.com. And we'll see you on the next series, which is coming up in 2 weeks. So scan the QR code, follow SoCal Tech, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.